Because 5 minutes, again, is significant. 5 minutes, half the kids might already be parents are talking on. If you know you're going to be late, so you're running behind, if you could just shoot me a short text saying, running behind, and maybe an idea of when you be there, running behind, be there at 5 or something like that. Anything that'll let me have an idea knowing that you are on your way, but you're just running a little bit behind. I'm not going to be upset with that, and actually I prefer that because then it gives me an idea that you are coming in, and I just have to manage this classroom. Sometimes we'll pull somebody in for those 3 or 4 minutes. We can pull someone in to open, like a team that's helping out in Bible theater. We can pull them in for 5 minutes to open that classroom until you get there, and then we'll shift the team back over, or maybe someone to their classroom. So letting me know that you're running behind and helps me be there really kind of helps me be able to manage that if I know for sure you are, like the way you'll be there. So. Okay, so some particular viewpoints, we already hit the first one, show up. Show up if you can. If you know, again, you're not going to be here prior to that morning, and I understand that sometimes you wake up in the morning and you didn't realize it, but you just caught a bug and you're extremely ill, or your kiddos caught a bug, and so you're just not going to be able to be there to appreciate that. If you know ahead of time your schedule's not going to be there, again, you're not going to upset me by letting me know you can't be there. It just gives more time to be able to try to figure something out so that we do have coverage in the classroom. So if you know you're not going to be there, the quicker you can let me know, the quicker we can work on a solution to be able to fill that void, that spot where you're going to be there. So that So another point I think is important besides showing up, and of course the other one would be on time. The other thing is starting on time. When you get to the classroom, for him, if you're working in a 9 o'clock classroom, now this really goes more for K first and second than third, fourth, and fifth, because you guys kind of get a little bit of a break or a plan on that because you're in Bible theater, and Nick will start Bible theater right when he needs to start, and you don't have to really worry about starting on time if that's Nick needs to start on time. But when you're in that classroom, K first and second, it's kind of your responsibility to start on time. And I understand that sometimes, you only have maybe 5 or 6 kids in that class, and there's a lot of people still in the parking lot and they're coming, you don't want to start because there's kids who still aren't there. Here's the thing that I've understood, come to understand and realize, that is that if you consistently start on time and people are late, they'll get that message that they need to be there a little earlier. And sometimes it's just what people need. It's not trying to poke at them saying, hey, you're late and we're going to start without you, but it's just a message that, you know what, and to be honest with you, it's kind of different in Kids Court at any other church I've been to. We only have 1 hour to do what most churches do in 2.5 hours, right? Most kids, a lot of churches I came from, we had 16 minutes of Sunday school, we had 75 minutes of kids worship. So we have 2 hours and 15 minutes versus what we have kids for basically 60 minutes, transition times, stuff like that. So it's not a lot of time that we have to be able to try to, speak into their lives and develop their relationship with Christ. So we really need to start on time so that we can get through the material and do what needs to be done. And also that consistently sets that tone and that message that, we're starting now, and the quicker we can start, the better. We do have some things that we're going to try over the course of this year that may help you as well. When kids check in, I'm not going to completely give that away, but we're going to test out in first grade this year, next month, where when the kids check in from those classrooms, they're going to go in, again, K to second, they're going to go into the middle classroom, and some of our teams are going to lead them in some opening exercises before the actual class time starts. We generate some fun for them, besides just coloring in the room. Generate some fun for them in that middle classroom, and then at 9 or 10:45 or 5, whatever, they will be dispersed back in their classrooms, and the teachers will start. So there are some other things we have in place as well. So, if we could do this, in every one of your classrooms, a couple of years ago, I pulled together some teachers that I knew in the public and private school system at different ages and brought them in, and we developed an acronym that dealt with behavioral policies. Anyone know what that acronym is? Kids Core. Yeah, that would be kind of a hard one. But Kids Core. Now, does anyone know what that Kids Core, what the acronym stands for? Yes, Eric, yes, sir.
So I'll start you off. K is kind. Kindness.
Oh, well, that would be a good one, but that's not how we came up with it. But
What is K?
well, yeah, the behavior policies actually don't start until the I, so that just to give you. So it's, it kind of starts with kids, and K stands for kids who, because they're kind of saying this, RU, starts off with RU, kids who, and that's what the K is. What's the I stand for? Inspire. Inspire. D, do your part. The S, speak appropriately. The C is cooperate. The O, offer kindness. And the R, show respect. So if you wouldn't mind, I found this up to at least the beginning of back to school. So this month of September would be ideal. And then again, probably in January after they have a significant break, they seem to forget things. But if you could cover, start your session out at 9, 10:45, or 5 o'clock, just pointing that to the wall, going over to it, and just going over that with the kiddos. And what that does is it sets, really sets the boundaries so that they, and the expectations, that they know how they're expected to behave in class. It's not something that you have to go back and say, oh, did you not know? Did you remember? It's like, oh, no, I never heard that before. Well, if you cover it with them at the very beginning, everybody's on the same page, everyone knows what the expectations are, and this is what you're expected and what they're expected to do. So if you did cover those, that would be great. And then, not to go into my workshop on behavioral issues, but so I don't want to go into it, but after you've done that, knowing what that plan is, right? So you've covered with them what the expectations are, but now what? So what if you have kids that are misbehaving or something goes on? Because to be honest with you, that's what I find most from my volunteers, that their issues are in the classroom, is kids that act out. So, does anyone know what our, we have a three-step policy or procedure we go through. We get you misbehaving. Anyone know what the first procedure is?
As a teacher, you talk to the child.
Right, you try to handle it yourself, right? Try to handle it by redirecting them. By the way, in every classroom, I'll do this way on the workshop, in every classroom in the hanging folders is this red folder. In that red folder is a front and back side yellow sheet, and it has all the different types of way that kids act out, right? Calling out in class, hyperactivity, distractibility, demanding students, lack of respect, all those things. And it gives you some things you can do to try to, redirect them. So if you didn't know that was existed, why don't take a look at those containing folders, which you could do if you get there 15 minutes before class. That was not a thing. That was just okay, so yes, you go over those. That's the first thing. Go over trying to deal with that yourself. What's the second procedure if that has not, if that's failed? What's the second procedure we do? What's the next step?
Call Mike.
Right, contact Mr. Mike. And again, I will give you all my cell phone. And so if that's a problem, just either call me or text me saying, come to room B206.
Stat.
Whatever. And I will stop what I'm doing, and I will head there, and I will take that kiddo outside and just outside the classroom, and as it was always said to me, let's come to Jesus. By the way, most of you know is that I try to introduce myself to the kids as the principal of Kids Point. So, I walk around before classes start and during class and after class, and I smile and I have fun with them, things like that. But if for whatever reason I get called into the classroom because of their behavior, it's like being sent to the principal's office. It's not going to be a real pleasant for them. So use that in your classroom if you have to. Let them know when you're going over these presentations, and go ahead and go over them after you go over these rules. If these things don't get better, then what's going to happen is you'll have to call Mr. What's the third one? I don't know what the third one is.
You contact her.
Yes, that doesn't work, and I let those kids know that if their behavior does not improve, then we're going to give their parents a call to pull them out of service, which is never a good thing. No parents like to be called out of service. We'll pull them out of service, and we'll have a sit-down conversation with them and their kiddos about their behavior and what can be done to improve that. So, very honestly, in my almost 4 years now, I've never had to call a parent out of the classroom because of a behavioral issue. So whatever reason, that step where if I say if it doesn't get better, that's what happens. It almost always takes care of the problem. At least for that day. They show back up again the next week. Remember that day late, and go back into class, and they're good for the next however many minutes they're there. So those are the three things. So if you know those and want to use them when you're talking to the kiddo as well, here's the thing. Following those is critical. Because if we are wishy-washy in following them, then, I mean, you know that. You've been to enough seminars like that, and as a parent yourself, you know, this is my weakest part of parenting, follow through, right? If you are not following through with what those procedures and steps are, those kids know that, and they know they can push that. It doesn't matter if number 2 is going to get Mr. Mike. They know that you're probably not going to go to that, and so those keep pushing. They'll keep pushing, because they know you're not going to fall through on it. You're not going to be consistent with it each time in the classroom. So the more you can be consistent, and it's hard too, right? Because some of you are in there every week, which is great, is that builds that consistency. But some of you are there in class, some of those classrooms, they're once a month or every week, and so those weeks that you're off, you don't know if the consistency is being done in that classroom, right? Which is again why it's important for you to be consistent in that classroom, because the next week you may not be there, there's someone else there, and they need to come in there knowing that you've been consistent in that classroom as well with what you're doing.